This is a detailed documentary on the longest heads of states in some African countries. Africa is so richly blessed, but when it comes to leadership, oh, we have the worst. Just watch and learn.
Most African countries started getting their independence after the Second World War, and since then, things have not remained the same, especially in the domain of leadership. Today, some people question how effective democracy is in Africa, as there are leaders whose reign has become too long than what was expected. Perhaps there are some long-serving African presidents you already know. The longest-serving president in Africa has ruled for over 44 years, as you will discover in this video. These longest-serving African presidents usually say they are still leading because their citizens like them and want them to keep ruling. However, their elections are always described by analysts as lacking transparency. Who are the 10 longest-serving African presidents? How long have they been in power? Get answers to these questions as you watch this video. Starting at the bottom, we have 10. Hage Gottfried Geingob, Namibia. Hage Geingob is the third and reigning president of the Republic of Namibia. He became president in 2015. Before becoming president, Hage Gottfried served as prime minister from March 21, 1990 to August 28, 2002. He equally served as the Minister for Trade and Industry between March 2008 and 2012. His political profile is a long one, with many victories recorded from his ruling Southwest Africa People's Organization founded in 1960. His first term as prime minister lasted for 12 years, and since he became president, it's been 8 years running now. Hage Geingob has also been one of the most outgoing leaders in the southern region, earning him a seat as the chairperson of the South African Development Community. However, the Namibian president's reign has been characterized by better leadership with awards and honors representing his reign. If you are already enjoying this video, you can give it a like before we continue. 9. Alassane Ouattara, Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast has one of the longest-serving presidents in the continent. Alassane Ouattara has been president of Ivory Coast since 2010. He was the prime minister of his country and worked as an economist for the International Monetary Fund and the Central Bank of West African States before becoming president. Alassane Ouattara won another 5-year term of office in 2020 in what is considered by many a constitutional coup. President Ouattara assumed his position after a hectic power tussle with the then-incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo after a stalemate in the 2010 elections. With the aid of France and the US, Ouattara's forces arrested Gbagbo, and he became the de facto leader. Alassane Ouattara's government has been criticized for corruption and a number of human rights abuses that are yet to be resolved. Although he has succeeded to invest much in various sectors of the Ivorian economy, poverty, education, and healthcare still remain major challenges. Next, 8. Faure Gnassingbe, Togo. Faure Gnassingbe is the president of Togo, who has ruled for over 19 years now. He became president in 2005 after the sudden death of his father, Gnassingbe Eyadema, that same year. President Faure was installed by the military as head of state, which resulted in an international and domestic backlash. Since his ascension to power in 2005, Faure Gnassingbe's reign has become a mainstay. He won his 4th term in 2020 after removing presidential terms amidst allegations of rigging the elections. Like his father, Faure's rule is quite a tense one. According to findings, he ordered the arrest of his half-brother and former defense minister on suspicions of planning a coup attempt in 2009. The constitutional changes he proposed in 2017 allowed him to continue to stand for elections, which was heavily protested by opposition leaders in Togo. 7. Paul Kagame, Rwanda. The famous Paul Kagame is the next African president on our list, who has ruled Rwanda for over 22 years now. Kagame rose to power after defeating the Rwandan National Army to end a genocidal war that broke out in Rwanda in 1994. He was then the leader of the RPF rebel forces. In his current 22-year-long reign, he has been praised for his efforts in enhancing economic stability and growth in Rwanda, but he is also noted for his absolutism. Rwanda has benefited from President Kagame's leadership, as he has been able to procure huge amounts of foreign aid that has enormously helped the country. Government reports claim that over 1 million people in Rwanda were lifted out of poverty between the years 2008 and 2012, and there has been steady economic growth in this country since then. Rwanda is also the cleanest country in Africa thanks to Kagame. Let's get to the 6th longest-serving African president down the list. 6. Ismail Omar Guelleh, Djibouti. President Ismail Omar Guelleh is the president of Djibouti, who has been in power for over 23 years now, after 5 terms of victories at elections. Ismail Omar succeeded his uncle, Hassan Gold, after serving in the cabinet as head of national security and chief of staff for more than 20 years. Many people in Djibouti know President Ismail Omar Guelleh as a dictator and power-centered person. In the latest elections in 2021, he beat his opponent Zakaria Faure by winning 97% of the votes. After this allegedly rigged election, many of President Ismail's opponents took up to the streets to decry such favoritism in elections. Inequality, corruption, poverty, unemployment, restriction of a free press, rampant malnutrition, and poor healthcare systems are reoccurring matters in President Ismail Omar's regime. Some people in Djibouti have said their country isn't a poor one, but it has been turned into a commercial state controlled by one person for many years. 5. Isaias Afwerki, Eritrea. President Isaias Afwerki is one of Africa's longest-serving presidents. He has been in this post since the country gained independence in 1991. That's 31 years. Isaias Afwerki led the Eritrean Liberation Front to victory in 1991, putting an end to a 30-year independence struggle in Eritrea. He continues to lead both the country and the only legitimate party in it. President Afwerki's reign has been marked by the lack of elections, a constitution, parliament, or an independent judiciary. The president is an authoritarian who uses his considerable power to eliminate rivalries and control press activities. Reports have also said that President Isaias has given aid to Islamist extremist groups in Somalia to destabilize neighboring Ethiopia. Eritrea remains one of the poorest countries in the world. The poverty rates there keep escalating with increased war and drought. These have rendered many homeless for several years now. 4. King Msawti III, Eswatini. King Msawti III is the last absolute monarch in Africa and has reigned over Swaziland for 36 years now. King Msawti usually appoints all members of his cabinet and parliament and also integrates his close allies with other top ranks of authority in the country. The king's reign has been described by many as rude, with many violent measures of governance being applied. His security forces are known for extrajudicial killings, unfounded arrests, detentions, and torture. An example of this assertion, given by several online media, is seen in 2021 when the people of Swaziland took to the streets in a pro-democracy protest. During this period, security forces enacted dusk to dawn curfew, shut off the internet, and more than 50 people were murdered. King Msawti is amongst the richest monarchs in the world. The rate of unemployment in his country is still quite remarkable. An average person there lives on less than $1 a day. Drop your thoughts in the comments section as we ride on. Also, like this video and share it with your friends and family. Wait for a second. Do you think that some of these leaders are being criticized by Western media because they're looking out for their people? 3. Yoweri Museveni, Uganda. Museveni is the president of Uganda and also one of the longest-serving presidents in Africa. Yoweri Museveni is Uganda's 9th president and has ruled the country for over 37 years. He led the rebel force that toppled former Ugandan presidents Milton Obote and Idi Amin Dada before his ascension to power in 1986. President Yoweri recently won a 6th term of office in 2021, and like many of his authoritarian comrades, Museveni has interfered in term limits, rigged elections, and suppressed opponents. His regime, according to some Ugandan nationals, is a display of wide-reaching corruption and intolerance for minority groups. Some problems plaguing Uganda still in President Yoweri's long-term leadership include youth unemployment, lack of electricity, and limited infrastructure, as the country lacks sufficient roads and railway systems. Next. 2. Paul Biya Mvondo. Cameroon. President Paul Biya, commonly referred to as Kukuma or Popol by Cameroonians, is one of the oldest and longest-serving presidents in Africa. He has been in this position for the past 40 years after the country's first president, Hage, resigned in 1982. Resigned in quotes. President Biya has won 7 terms, and the latest was in 2018 when his party, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, emerged victorious in the elections. Paul Biya is the longest-serving ruler in the world now, following the death of Queen Elizabeth II of England. His presidency has become more repressive and is criticized by many opponents and political parties. Analysts have revealed that elections in Cameroon are often fraudulent and free speech is usually restricted at this time. President Biya's French-backed regime has often targeted the Anglophone people of Cameroon, leading to a secessionist crisis currently taking place in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country, which are the Northwest and Southwest regions. As a result of widespread corruption, more than 40% of Cameroonians live below the poverty line, and some 6.2 million of them are in need of humanitarian aid. Who is the longest-serving African president on this list? Before you find out, please subscribe to our channel, where you not only get important facts, but also get a lot of discoveries on the African continent. 1. Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo, Equatorial Guinea. This is the longest-serving African president, the man with the crown. Equatorial Guinea has been under the leadership of President Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo for the past 43 years. President Mbasogo took office in 1979 after organizing a military coup against his uncle, Francisco Macias Nguema, who was president of Equatorial Guinea at this time. Since Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo took over power, the country operates under a one-party system, with a constitution where he has all major powers. His son, Teodoro Obiang Nguema, has been the vice president since 2016. Like the precedent longest-serving African presidents you just watched, Mbasogo's regime is characterized by unlawful kidnappings, murder, and torture of anyone who criticizes it. The only media outlets allowed to operate in his country are those owned by his allies. Local activists often face intimidation, harassment, and reprisals. Equatorial Guinea is one of the leading oil-producing countries in Africa and has one of the highest adult literacy rates. Despite this, wealth inequality is still a major issue to be addressed, as about 3/4 of the population still struggle below the poverty line. Citizens of some countries have protested against their leaders' duration in power, which has now become an issue of great concern. There has been an increase in the number of coups across the continent, which has seen long-standing heads of state lose power, while some haven't. Despite these, there still remain a number of African leaders who have continued to consolidate power through constitutional changes and have constructed legal dictatorships in their countries. Before becoming presidents, most of these presidents had already been leading either in the same political parties, where they are now, or acted as leaders in rebellious groups, as was the case with President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in our next video.